Good morning. We're going to take a look at freight volumes and see what's going on across the world. Well, at least across your world. So, stay tuned. Check one. All right. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey now. Hello. All right. Whatever intro you want to use from some famous person. I am not famous, so I have to beg, borrow, and steal. So good morning. Hope all is well. And, we're still sending prayers out to the people in Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. Disruption, of course. And then, we're hoping for a resolution on this port strike. So, good morning. So we're going to take a look at freight volumes in and out of the port areas and see what that looks like, and see if it's affected us. Now, they're saying not to do the whole panic buying thing because there's no need. Like, we're not, like, going to be running out of supplies. And I was listening I want to say I was listening off and on to Sage yesterday, and he was tracking some kind of, I don't understand the Twitter spaces or whatever, but people were talking, and they were doing the fear-mongering. They were like, you're going to run out of fuel, you're going to run out of this, look, you're not going to run out of anything, right? Where it will affect us as drivers, I'm not a driver, I guess. Oh, and I got a tax update for you, so keep in mind, okay? And we'll get to that. I lost my train of thought. If you're hauling a lot of consumables, you're fine. They said that the holiday freight is already here, so that won't be disrupted. Where you're going to have to start looking is manufacturing, and small businesses might be more affected. So we're not going to, it's not like we're going to reach COVID level, shortages right off the bat. There's no need to go to Walmart and buy all the toilet paper and beat up old ladies for, bottled water or anything like that. You don't have to do that. So just keep that in mind. Just be aware that it's going to change dynamics of the freight, just like the Southeast has been changed dramatically because of the natural events. And then, you got, the next month is going to be interesting on all accounts, on the physical plane, on a spiritual plane, on the financial plane, and you got Iran sending missiles to Israel yesterday, and you've got that situation, and then you had the debate last night. How many of you watched the debate last night? What's your opinion of it? You know me, I don't get too political, but I thought it was probably a very like they were both civil. There was no insults thrown at each other. You could tell one was more nervous than the other, and I was pretty impressed with Vance, the way he handled himself, and knowing that he was going in, guns a blazing, because that's what the media does now. So it was very interesting to watch that. And then, so yesterday I finally, I filed my taxes. I had to put in an extension, and I finally got those things. I got that back yesterday. And let me tell you something, and I want you to listen very carefully, okay? All right, so if you are a truck owner, and I want you to listen to this, okay, because here's the path that you might be going down, okay? Since the dawn of time, it's been a goal for most owner-operators to pay off that truck, okay? And then you would look at it and say, well, at least I have an asset to sell when I decide to get out, which is exactly what I did, right? Now, you can depreciate a truck for 3 years. You can depreciate a trailer for 3 years. However, I had my vehicles for 5 years. Well, 6 on the Kenworth and 5 on the trailer. So no depreciation left. And of course I sold the truck and trailer. I did not spend, I used one group of the money to get rid of some debt that I acquired just from the truck sitting here. I wasn't running it, so I wasn't getting revenue. I was mainly concentrating on the dispatch and the office work here. So I was not making money I had to put out like $6,000 just in maintenance alone in the truck. Then I had insurance and fuel for the APU and all that. And that was a mistake. Because since I didn't make any revenue with the truck, a lot of the write-offs that I would normally take were gone, right? So, but here's the important part, right? When I sold the truck and trailer, I was no longer depreciating it. And I got reamed hard with the taxes from the sales of the truck and trailer. And so for those of you who are sitting there like, I got to pay off this truck, I got to pay off this truck, and you're sacrificing everything. You're sacrificing your health, you're sacrificing your family time, and your family doesn't like you anymore because you're never home, or your wife's getting ready to leave you because you're never home, because you got to pay off this truck, you got to pay off this truck. Well, guess what? When you pay off the truck, now what? You have to have a plan, right? I had a plan to get out of the truck, right? I had a plan and I achieved it. I didn't realize that selling out would have cost me so much in taxes. Now, I'm not a tax expert, and I can't give you tax advice, nor will I. There's some people that get on YouTube and they give you tax advice. No, don't do that. You ever seen those lawyer commercials where they're like, the involved in a truck accident, call blah, 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 7777, all these freaky numbers, right? And they say, fine print, do not base your search for a lawyer based on a commercial, right? So don't listen to my tax advice. I will say this, though. You work hard, you get the truck paid off, you use it for a while, and then you decide, I'm going to sell this truck. And guess what? Because of the wars that they're funding in Ukraine, they need all your money. So the government comes along, punches you in the face a few times and says, I'll take that. And then off you go. So And that's exactly what happened to me. So just be aware of that if your goal is to pay off that truck. So at least you'll have an asset to sell when you decide to get out of it. You're going to have to sell it within the first 3 years to not take as much as a hit because of depreciation. And most trucks now, if you buy them 3 years later, you're still upside down in it, unless you got something insanely cheap. So just keep that in mind. And don't make fun of the guys that are doing the lease purchases or the lease full maintenance leases, because they're not going to get hit with that. So cheers. I've got my Sanctuary We Are Metal, We Are Family coffee mug, my favorite one. Besides the Snorelord mugs, of course. I broke one of them, or my wife accidentally broke one of them, or maybe I don't know. One of us broke one of the Snorelord mugs, but I still got the green one. So, and then the metal one, of course, metal. You know. Okay, so let's go to the comments here, and then we'll take a look at some low board stuff. So, let's turn my voice up a little bit. All right, Dan's Trucking and Outdoor Adventures. Good morning. Good morning. Look at that beard, man. Huzzah. My name is Nobody. Good morning. Gen Z, what's up? Good morning. Rookie Trucker, good morning. Gary Cook, good Wednesday morning from Greensboro, North Carolina. How's that trip going, Gary? You doing all right with that? Flatbed Trucker, hello. Stuart the Hobby Trucker, I haven't seen you in a minute. Hope you're doing well. Are you still a hobbyist? Are you still driving? What is the update? I'm not... You and Coach were switching your channels around in the whole 9 yards, and I kind of lost track of all of that. TKM Express, good morning to all. Bonehead Truckers is in the house. Wow. Let's see. Chi-Town Bound, good morning. Finishing a 10 Terre Haute. Finishing a 10 in Terre Haute and heading to Wisconsin, short 378 mile for $1,000. Awesome. Very good. I think the debate was better than the presidential debate, in my opinion. Yes, it was more civilized, and you know what's funny is they tried to gang up on Vance, and it, you know, like they did on Trump, and it didn't work out as much. There was one point where they had to shut the microphones off of both of them, and they literally said, "Hey, we shut your mics off, so quit talking." You know, which I thought, okay, but then it never went downhill from there. So. I will say this, though, Gary, and the rest of you. For the love of God, no one can answer a damn question, right? And that's annoying. That's one of my pet peeves, because it's either yes or no. Come on, you know. And I understand that's not the purpose of the debate. Is, you know, you want to put your agenda out there and all that. But man, you either look. When I ask someone a question, I look at not only what they answer, but how they answer. For example, if I'll have drivers call me and say, "Hey, Steve, should I become an owner operator?" I'm like, "Well, you know, what are your finances?" And I've heard this literally. Well, you know, I'm doing okay, I guess. You know, I mean, you know, how's your credit? Well, you know, it's not great, but it's not bad. You know, it's okay. Okay. Right then and there, I'll tell them, look, if your credit and your finances aren't right, don't do it. You know, and you know, but somebody with confidence that oh, dude, I got like 20,000 in the bank and I've got an 800 credit score. They're quick to brag about that, right? And that person, I'll go, okay, let's look at the next stage where someone skirts around the answer, that they're not being honest with themselves, and so they're not being honest with me. So right there, I'm like, don't do it, right? Yes, it is a Pastor Bob mug. So, but yeah. So look at how people answer questions. right? So, Buck Brown, my fellow Snorelordians, trucking with T-Bone, what's up? Gen Z, selling the truck is income, so it's taxable. Yes, I'd still pay the truck off ASAP because you'll otherwise blow that money on stuff you don't need. That is true, Gen Z. I'm not saying don't pay a truck off. I'm just saying that there are people sacrificing everything and thinking that they have an asset to sell that's going to bring them some money. And the reality is that they're going to take a big chunk of it. And so you have to keep that in mind, you know. But yes, yes, Ike, that is a Pastor Bob mug. I got 2 of his. If I had enough cabinet space, I would get almost every one that they come out with every month. CDN Freight Broker, good morning, Steve. If anyone owes a lot of taxes, it means they made a bunch of money. Yeah, well, I made some money on my truck and trailer. So, Sterling Wheel, good morning, truckers and truckers adjacent. Good to see you, Sterling. Greensboro went well, no problems getting unloaded. Good deal. Mowat, what's up? Asking Stewie, saying hi to Stewie. Yes, CDN DIY says if he has a big tax bill, it is good. That means he made a ton of money. Morning, Mowat. Good morning from the cheap state. Yes, Jose, we're going to look at that because it's getting pretty intense there. Buck Brown, I'm currently in Rocky Mount, Virginia. I've seen a lot of damage. I bet you have. Sterling, all political theater is lame. I agree with that. So let's go to some volumes here. I mean, that's why you guys are here, not to look at my pretty mug, right? So let's share the screen here. Oh, speaking of which, let me do this real quick. My good buddy Sterling, he made me a quick video. So if I ever get a phone call, you're going to see this. All right, so that's our hold music. That is yours truly. About 30 years ago, that recording was done in '91 when I was still growly and angry. So, anyways, thank you, Sterling, for that. So, Sterling says spiffy. Moet says that's awesome. Sterling says name that tune. That is unlearned. You know how most people are. They don't learn their lessons. The song lyrically is about making the same mistakes over and over and over. And yeah, you know, we do it in government. We do it in politics. We do it in, you know, we're making the same mistakes as many empires have made before us that have fallen by the wayside. So just kind of keep that going. I hope it wasn't too loud. I didn't balance the volume. I should have balanced the volume. How much louder than my voice was it? Because I don't want to deafen you guys. I need something similar, except something that incorporates chainsaws and backhoes. Well, I've got an album by a band called Backhoe Butchery that I was in. You can have that. Your call is very important. Please continue to hold. Much louder. Okay, I'll have to turn it down. So, but anyways, let's go to because I think I can balance the sound here. Let me try this here. I got to figure that out. Sorry, guys. Anyways. Oh, there it is. Background music. No, that's for background music. I don't know. Maybe Sterling can tell me how to turn the volume down. Anyways, on that. Anyways, All right, let's go back to comments here. I was going to use Bitch Lust. That is a song about, well, I mean, we've talked about that before. So, is there any more storms that we need to worry about? I don't think so, Gary. Let's take a look at the National Weather Service. I know that there was something brewing, but I don't think it's a full thing yet. Let me look here. All right. So if we go to, well, let's see. Let's zoom this out a little bit. Yeah, there's no warnings. Let's see. Let's look at radar here. Where's the radar? Oh, right there. Yeah, there's not much going on. I mean, there's a little bit of rain out here, but I don't know if it's going to mount anything. I have not watched the weather in a day or so, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. You're fine for now. So Jose says it's fine. I can make one quieter. No, I just got to figure out how to. There's another named storm out in the Atlantic, Keith. I think, yeah, there is one like way out, like east of everything. Like it's literally never going to hit land. So I think we're fine there. But anyways, you just have to be careful. So we're at the 123 low board 48065. If you want to try my code, try it 3 for 30 days. Look at all the tools that you see here, and then some. I know things are tight, but not having a low board subscription is not a good idea. And if you don't want to pay DAT's prices, then try ours. So, but anyways, we are going to look at that because I do have a DAT subscription. So let's refresh this. This dashboard is really important on these freight numbers. And if we go down to Florida, 3,324 loads going in for van and only 573 coming out. So you'll be lucky to get 80 to 90 to $1.90 to $1 coming out. And that's just and what's going to happen is when we go to, let's go to load availability on 123 here. When you go to van, let's see, when you go to here, you're going to see that South Carolina's yellow, Alabama's yellow, Mississippi's yellow. And so all these markets have softened, which is going to make Georgia soft. Now, it's green here, but what that means is that a little bit easier to find a load, but that doesn't necessarily equate to decent rates. Your truck to load ratios are way imbalanced. And so let me remove this for a second. CDN says, Steve, I forwarded you an email. Please read what's said to the customer about low rates. Leave out their name. Okay, let's see. Let me open that email up. All right. Well, I don't want to share the screen here on this one. All right. So, this is a pretty big email. I mean, do you want to come on here and talk about it? All right. Let me look here. Let me see if I can read through this. Hi, so and so. 5,800 is very low. As mentioned previously, the more all shippers in BC push for lower rates on both Super B and 53 flatbed from BC to Ontario, then two things happen over time. Number one, less trucks are willing to run that lane. When capacity of available trucks shrink, rates will ultimately go up due to less available trucks. The rates from Ontario to BC increase even higher. thus artificially inflating the cost of goods in BC. Solutions. If price is your only focus, offer a base to fuel surcharge program plus TARP fee plus driver detention fee rather than just a flat fee. Understanding the costs that carrier will incur will better help understand the need for better rates. Tender an RFQ whereby you offer, say, 30 loads that are ready to no waiting, so a carrier can build a schedule to take a load on a consistent basis, essentially offer volume and consistency to seek lower rates. To purchase a semi-truck good enough to survive harsh Canadian winters. Transporting goods across Canada with minimal breakdowns. Semi-truck, this is probably Canadian, $235,000 to $275,000 plus trailer, at least $65,000. That's Canadian. Huh? Okay, be careful. Insurance per truck, depending on the carrier's years of service and safety rating, 18 to 25. So you're basically running down the cost of the truck to this customer. Talk about cargo theft. I will let you know my best rate, but focusing on lowest rate equals newer carriers that are less experienced just trying to survive. I've tried to call you to discuss the issue. I've been servicing this customer since April 16th, 2008. I pride myself on offer excellent service and matching quality carriers to your freight. Not sure where 58 came from, but it is really low. I will see what I can do. I appreciate your time. So basically, this is Rob trying to educate the shipper of the costs of dealing with the trucking business in his area, right, in Canada. And, you know, I'm trying to fight the good fight. Yeah, and that's good, because I think that's one of the reasons why both him and Sage have become friends with me, is so they can learn a little bit from this side of, you know, of the phone call, right? And I've always said that the more you can understand where the shippers are coming from, the more you can understand where the brokers are coming from, the more you can understand about your own business. And the idea is everyone meet in the middle, right? You know, the shipper needs to move their product, but they need to do it at the lowest cost possible. The broker wants to make as much profit margin as they possibly can, and so does the carrier. And you know, and people are going to take advantage of situations. If the freight is in our favor, we're going to take advantage of the situation. If the freight is in the broker's favor, they're going to take advantage of the situation. If the shippers are in a freight situation, they're going to take advantage of the situation. And so what I have found throughout the years is that the companies, the shippers that have a specialized product are always willing to pay. They understand the cost of their goods. They understand the cost, you know, of what they're doing, right? You know, it's not just, you know, 2 turns off the interstate warehouse, dry van, you know, 40,000 pounds of bottled water. You know, that stuff will always go by what the demand is. It's a supply and demand thing. So that was CDN fighting the good fight, trying to, like, look, this is what it costs to move a truck right now. And if you want to attract the truck to move your freight, you're going to have to come up on your rate. And that's true. That's true. And so why is it so cheap to come out of Florida? Well, because you have 3,000 some odd loads coming in, and you got 573 loads going out. That means there's, you know, 33 minus 573, 3,300 minus 573. You have that many trucks that don't have a load coming out. That will, you know, that might be looking on the dashboard for their next load. So we come down to Georgia. You have 2,709 loads going in and only 1,294 out. That's less than half. Now, there was a time where this was like 1,500 going in and like 2,000 coming out. That was earlier this year, and I took advantage of that. But not in the way that you think. I wasn't like, all right, man, I need 250 mile coming out of Georgia. I went after the people that had the multi-stop load. So if people are making good money coming out of Georgia on regular freight, I made more money coming out because that's where the demand was less. You know, that's where, you know, they were needing trucks more. Whereas when the Georgia market is taking a dump like this, the normal multi-stop loads I grab out of there, I don't have as much leverage. Unless I'm going somewhere like Nebraska or North Dakota or something like that with the final stop, which, you know, I'm willing to do because I know how to get out of those areas. The email is basically explaining cost per time. Well, I mean, I think you and the CDN got a lot in common with that cost per time, you know. So, you know, and CDN has always been a time-based, I mean, because that's how LTL works, right? You know, I bid on a load yesterday with one of my normal brokers, and I said, hey, man, you know, we need to be at 700. You know, I asked for 8. And he goes, man, I can't do more than 450. I'm like, well, yeah, that's not my minimum daily rate. My minimum daily rate is this amount. And, you know, I didn't book the load. And the sad part is I wasn't even in a bad area. Right? I was in Ohio. But until the load to truck ratio changes, you know, it's going to be harder to get a better rate. You know, and depending on your costs, you know, it might be hard to get a sustainable rate. Mo, says, don't go buying everything off the shelves while the ports are down because it's going to increase the price of goods. Leave it on the shelves. If you don't need it, supply and demand. There you go. Yeah, they're trying to tell people not to panic buy. You know, it's kind of a fine line when you're doing social media, right? You want to alert people like, hey, man, this could be a big deal, but you don't want to inflict panic. Right? And as we've seen, people are easily influenced. You know, I came across a video the other day. Remember the TikTok trend of people in urban neighborhoods climbing milk crates? They would create a mountain of milk crates, and then they would try to walk the whole mountain, and people were breaking their legs and stuff, all for a TikTok trend. That's how easily manipulated people can be. Same thing with the Tide Pod challenge, and you know, and you've got young people thinking that they have ticks and they don't, kind of a deal. And I mean, just all kinds of, you know, and so people are easily influenced. You know, the toilet paper shortage was social media at its best, right? Fear-mongering. That's why we ran out of ammo. That's why we ran out of, you know, that's why firearm costs went up. You know, that's, I mean, just all kinds of things, right? And so there's no need to panic buy right now. You know, just pay attention, you know? And we always, yeah, ice bucket. Sterling says ice bucket challenge caused COVID. I mean, it's like, I remember when the ice bucket challenge went out, you know, everybody started doing that. You know, of course it was for a good cause, supposedly, but I imagine half the people that did it didn't do it, right? Didn't donate or whatever. And I'm like, how about an ice bucket challenge in the middle of winter? It was like June when this thing was going on, right? How about doing that in the wintertime? You know, I want to see a December ice bucket challenge. And then, you know, but it just shows you, that's why TikTok is so dangerous. Because there's so many dumb trends that have been so destructive to our young people and to older people, really. and they've actually done studies that it causes mental illness. So like if I own the business, like a brick and mortar business, people say, well, you got to start a TikTok, to advertise your business. Yeah, but okay, but I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to partake in it. I'll just hire somebody to post it for me so I don't have to deal with the algorithms and all that crap. It's bad enough I got to try to keep up on this YouTube as much as I can. So, but anyways, let's take a look at Georgia. Let's see what's coming out here. Now, your best rates are going to be from Georgia to Florida. It's as simple as that. So if we do this by highest rate per mile, you're going to come up with a lot of these $400 loads, $500 loads. Here, Valdosta to Jacksonville for $575, $471 a mile, but only $575 for the day. Now, if you can do 2 of those a day, that's pretty cool. But that's not until the 8th. Now, today is what, October 2nd? So, here we go. Another Warner Robins, Georgia to Jacksonville, Florida, 228 miles for $843. Then to go to Alabama, you got $347 a mile, $600. Look at this. Pooler, Georgia to Tampa, $343 a mile, $1,100 for 321 miles. But let's look at the backhaul. There's 11 loads, Florida to Georgia, 73 cents a mile. Here's one for $1.55. $1.06 a mile, $1.07 a mile. That's it. There's nothing else. There's 11. Found 11 backhaul loads, right? Some of these are multiple postings. So you're going to have to combine. So now that $347 a mile goes down, right? And you're going to have to do the all miles. If you can even pick up some of these loads, right? Now, if we do the highest rate, let's see where all the long haul stuff's going. You're going to start seeing some rates that'll downright tick you off. $1.14 to go to California. That's actually, I've seen that worse. $1.54 to go to Salt Lake. $1.11, $1.20 to go to San Diego. And what's the problem with these loads? Steve, I thought you focused on rate per day, not rate per mile. Well, let's click on one of these. Picks up at 1 p.m. tomorrow. Delivers, looks like Monday at 8 a.m. This is 38% below my cost per day. And so at the end of the trip, after fuel and my carrier's percentage, which is 20%, you're looking at making $781 profit after fuel. And carrier's fee, or percentage, not fee. So yeah, $781 for how many days of work? Third, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 days. So you're making $223 a day. And it says here, to cover your daily costs, the trip rate should be at least $29.22, $3,000, $1.44 a mile. The base rate for this load is $24.50, $1.21 a mile. Now, Cargo Chief's got this at $33, which goes by the bills that have been sold in this lane. But was that a multi-stop load? Were they multi-stop loads coming out? So if you had to absolutely go back to California, I would two-step it. Do a small load to, like, say, Alabama or Texas or maybe even Missouri. I would go Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, and then get to Phoenix, and then get to LA. You'll make more money that way. Randy, good morning from Greenland, New Hampshire. You are late. I was late too, so we didn't start this right at 7. Officials are saying it's going to take a year to rebuild I-40 through the damaged portion. It looks like it's going to be a challenge. Yeah, I mean, all that ground's still saturated, so they can't do squat right now. You know, and even if they're able to get it open, it's going to probably be one lane. You know, and they're going to have to restructure it. They're going to have to re-engineer that whole section. You know, but that's what happens on 100-year floods is like things that you thought were cool are not. You know. Marty says 1, 2, 3 shows Florida green going in. Can you change the parameter so we can see the colors for going out if they change? Well, you don't need colors. All you got to do is you hover your cursor over the state, and it says 210 outbound and 703 inbound and 124 intrastate. And so there you go. That's all you got to do. You know, the colors can be meaningless at times. This is just a glance. Like, obviously, North Dakota's red, right? Let's take a look at North Dakota. 25 outbound and 13 inbound. So there's not as many loads in North Dakota, so therefore it's going to be harder to find a load. Right? Desert Oak Pam, good morning. Has anyone successfully reduced your cost per day? How many review previous week and take your pay per load versus actual time? I don't believe Cargo Chief tells brokers this rate is below daily minimum. No, I mean, look, if I'm the shipper and a broker comes to me and says, hey man, I can move your stuff at, $1 a mile, I'm going to take that, right? But what some brokers don't realize is that $1 a mile is not sustainable to run a trucking business unless you're a big carrier or you have other irons in the fire, or you're good at $1 a mile on your backhaul because you got great contract freight coming in, right? And so that's the problem right now, is that costs have gone so high, and there's a lot of rates out there. Like if if all you ran was Florida, Georgia, you got to really hustle. You got to really be smart, right? And we got a guy that does that, and he does well. But he has to hustle. He has to work hard, man. He's pounding the pavement every single day. And he understands the system. He's not crying over the fact that it's 80 cents a mile coming out, so he just deals with it. He either takes it if it's in his favor, or he deadheads back up to Georgia. So overall, his rate per mile may not be the greatest if he's doing a lot of deadhead, but you know what? His rate per day is still there where he needs it to be. Because if shippers understood rate per day, they wouldn't be offering $300 loads that you have to be under for 12 hours. Picks up at 8 a.m. today, delivers at 12 p.m. tomorrow. $350, take it or leave it. But yet somebody somewhere is moving that, and you have to understand that too. And if people are like, well, these drivers that take the cheap freight, they're just going to eventually go out of business. Well, then let them. If they don't understand their numbers and they think that 350 is good, then let them. Let them eventually go out. You just got to survive the storm. I don't pay a bunch of attention to what other people are doing. If I call a broker on a load and they go, well, we move these all day and every day for $1 a mile, I'm like, okay, well, thanks for your time. That is unsustainable for me. Have a good day. And that's it. I don't get mad at them. I don't. Like, look, and look, if they can move it for $1 a mile, then more power to you, bud. Because eventually you're going to lose your carriers that are doing that for $1 a mile unless they got something really good coming in and they don't care. Does your cost per day include your variable costs? Yes. So, Marty, it's simple, and we've gone over this before. At the end of the month, take your fuel, your fixed costs, and your variable costs, add it up all together, and divide it by how many days in the month you want to work. Divide it by how many days of that month you did work. Full days and half days. That's your cost per day. And if you're trying to project what your cost per day is going to be, then you divide the number by 20, by 25, and by 30. Right? And most people will divide it by 30 and say, okay, that's good because it lowers the cost per day, but you're working a full month at a time. And that's the averages don't work. If you work 3 months straight without going home, but then you take 2 weeks off, guess what? You're not 30 days of average each month, are you? You're just grouping it differently. And so I tell people, put your cost per day at 20 days and then at 25. 25 is every other weekend off. 20 days is every weekend off. And the person that lives in North Dakota is going to have a different cost per day and a different way they structure it than the person that lives in, say, Ohio. Right? It's that simple. Speaking of simplicity, Sterling says, what value do you bring to a market? Simple as that, right? And guys, what you also have to realize is when a broker, not all brokers, some brokers, what they'll do is they'll put out a better rate on a lane to get the trucks in, right? And then let's say, hey, I've got 4 of these a week. And you're like, okay, hook me up, man. Let's do it. And that's all you do. And then eventually, like, well, we need to go down $50 to $100. You know, the shipper has changed have changed their rate. And eventually you stop doing it. Like, okay, well, now you're below my cost and so I can't do this anymore. And then eventually, if the broker wants to keep that contract, they'll call you back. You know, but I mean, that happens all the time. And so when you find a gravy train, ride that until you're so sick of it and then ride it some more. You know, there was, you know, when I did the Joplin to Rogers gig for a couple of weeks, man, that was so good. You know, $1,100 a day, 2 round trips, easy money. The only thing that made it difficult was the receiver. And, you know, because they didn't have their act together. They were not prepared to handle the volume of trucks on this particular project. It was an outside warehouse project. But, you know, I know a flatbedder that's doing 2 or 3 drops a day within a 150-mile radius of where he lives in Georgia. Making great money for easy, simple work. So, you know, and if the broker tries to lower the rate, he's like, okay, I'll do something else. Because, you know, when you look at the carriers that have gone out of business because they are trying to keep their contract freight, that's essentially what happens. The shipper's like, hey, man, we need to lower the rate. We need to lower the rate. And then the trucking company will be like, well, I've got 50 guys on this. I don't want to leave them high and dry. So they'll work at a loss. And eventually that loss puts them under. Chief Freight Hauler, good morning. I've had brokers tell me that I would have to drop my trailer at consignee 24 to 72 hours. How would you handle something like that, or do you pass on it? I've only done that one time. And that's because I was delivering the trailer on a Friday, and it was just a few blocks from my house. Now, I was nervous the whole weekend because I know this particular yard, trailers get dinged up all the time. And ended up taking an extra day. I thought the trailer would be empty by Monday. I tried bribing the receiving office when I came in, and they're like, they showed me the stack of loads that were coming in. Like, nope, sorry, dude. But like on the road, absolutely not, dude. Absolutely not, unless you plan on taking some time off. And you'll see that. You'll see, oh wow, this load's posted, 40% higher than everybody else. But if so what the first thing you have to do, Gary, is you have to, sorry, my nose itches. You have to consider worst case scenario, 72 hours. Right? And so for 3 days. So if you do it on a Friday and you're going on vacation, or you're going to take the weekend off, then you might flirt with it, but only if you know the receiver. And then there's also the potential for someone to steal your trailer at that point. I remember a story about this company that started having trailers stolen because they went into this guard shack and the side of the truck said so-and-so's trailer repair. And all they did was come in and say, "Hey, I'm taking this trailer. It's due for a repair." And then they left. Boom, they had a free trailer. So you got to be careful of that too. Are you going to depend your livelihood of that trailer? Now where you're at, you probably don't own the trailer, but I would be more nervous about doing that with my trailer because I owned it. So I avoided those for the most part. There's only, like I said, there's only one time I did it, and because I knew the customer, and I had a tracker on my trailer, and also, so I knew when it moved, and I knew where it was at, and then also, just a few blocks from where I live. Yeah, some say 72 business hours. So if you drop the trailer on a Friday, you think it's going to be done on Monday? No, it may not be done till Wednesday. Only if they can get to it on Monday, right? So you're wasting a lot of time. So just be aware of that. So I don't recommend that at all. And you got to read the rate cons. Sometimes the rate cons will say that, and the broker didn't mention it. That's kind of what happened to me. I called on this load. It paid really good. It was a load coming out of Chillicothe, Missouri. And so I go and look at the rate con, and I called the dude back. I said, "Hey, this says 72-hour drop on the trailer." He goes, "Yeah, man. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that. I could take you off the load if you want." And I knew the receiver was 24/7, so I knew the trailer would get unloaded, and of course all the things that I just talked about. And so I went ahead and did it. But I should have pulled off that load just to, because the broker wasn't honest with me up front. He was hoping to take advantage of the fact that I did not read the rate con, and that I would already be under the load when I got to the receiver and oh yeah, drop your trailer there. Well, I own the trailer. Well, yeah, but it's supposed to be a drop. So, and that's how people do business. That's the thing. We make the mistake that we think that people are on the same moral high ground that we are, or that yourself is. So if you handle all your business morally, doesn't mean the next person is. It's kind of like if you get in a fight somewhere, and you're like, "Okay, you got me, you beat me up, I'm sorry." You think that they're going to follow the same moral ground that you would? Just because you would say, "Okay, man, I taught you a lesson, I'll leave you alone," doesn't mean that person is going to as well. And that's how business is done. CDN says we figure out our minimum cost to do business. Do the same for your body each day. Minimum water, drink, minimum steps, minimum strength allowed, restricted foods, build credits for your health. That is true. I agree with that. So, anyways, so yeah, I mean, let's go back to Florida and let's look at highest rate and see where all the cheap per mile stuff is. Oh, here we go. $1.59 to come out of Tampa, Billings, Montana. Does that meet my rate per day? Barely. 8% above my cost per day. Now, something else I will add, and you've heard me say this before, so I sound like a broken record. Just because I can get by on $358 a day, that means that I don't book loads for $358 a day. I don't, right? I've never done a load for $350 or $400. I think the lowest was $550, and that was not for the day. That was for one load. That was when I was doing 2 of those a day. Now, there was one day of that 2-week period where I only got 1 in, but then there was one that I got 3 in. So it made up for it. So averaged $1,100 a day. And you know what? My rate was better than the other people that were doing those. Dart was doing them for $350 a day. Or no, they were at $400 a day. And I believe Landstar, there was a Landstar truck doing these with us, and he was at $350 a day. And he's only getting 65% of that. Or not a day, a trip, sorry. So he was trying to do 3 a day. Right? So majority of this long haul stuff out of Florida, it's going to put, okay, so let's say we do the Billings, Montana. How many loads are out there? 5. 5 from Montana anywhere to anywhere. And what's the rates out of there? $1.06 a mile. Why? Because there's no other freight out there. This is PLS Logistics, and it's going to Washington. Do you want to go to Washington? Probably not, especially not for 70% below your cost per day. So now you're in the hole. Now you're going to take a hit somewhere, sometime. So you might as well take that hit out of Florida, deadheading to Georgia, or getting something shorter that puts you in a better area. That's when you take that hit. Let's look at now let's look at New Jersey. That's something else I was going to look at. So let's go to DAT real quick. Let's look at New Jersey. Still showing a decent volume coming out. So that's good. So the port strike hasn't affected volumes just yet. Maryland is pretty even, 415 in, 433 out. And then let's look at PA. 1,600 in, 2,090 coming out. So if you land in PA, you could potentially get good freight coming out. Now Texas, look at Texas, 3,950 in, 2,259 out. So let's go over here. Now we're looking at Jersey, right? Linden, New Jersey to Pine Bluff, Arkansas, $1.26. We've got it posted on Age. So let's do highest rate per mile. And all that's going to go either Florida or Northeast. 400, 350, $700. Here we go. 1,200. Go to Rhode Island. Picking up today, actually. 1,200 going to Massachusetts. So the going rate going up into the deeper Northeast is New England is $4 a mile. All right, let's do the highest rate per mile. Oh, that is highest rate. Let's do highest rate. And of course, you're going to see the Oregon $1.45 a mile, Washington $1.45, $1.27 to go to Reno, go visit Sterling. $1.26 go to Arizona. So your best bet is to get New Jersey to PA, PA to Ohio, Ohio to Missouri, Missouri to Arizona. You got to four-step it. In other news, Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith is blaming the USA Department of Defense for spraying chemo trails all over Alberta. That's a different topic for a different day for a different channel. Your cost per day, is that off the gross amount or your cut after the carriers take their portion? Okay, so let's do this here. So let's go to Missouri and let's look at an outbound load here. Here, I'm going to do this Lakeville from Moberly, right? So in this estimated cost, so let's look at profit calculator. I've got my line haul revenue, which is $1,000. Estimated fuel cost is $230.15. That's estimated off of 6 miles per gallon for 427 miles at $3.23 a gallon. That's the average price for this lane. Okay. You apply your deadhead miles if you want. You can click on that. And then you can put in your fuel discount so you can get really nitty gritty. My additional cost is the 20%. That's $200. Right? That's that 20%. If I had a toll cost, it would pop up here. And then if you want to get really itemized, you can put your other fees. So let's say you want to throw your insurance and everything else. You can put that in other fees. Right? So this cost per day is based off of my percentage that I get at Like Trucking and the fuel. That's not count my insurance. Well, actually it is. Because it's adding the variable of fuel. So, but I can put my insurance, you put everything in here. Right? And so you can look at a glance of how much you're really making. So at the end of this trip, I'm gonna actually net $569.85. And I will land in Lakeville, Minnesota, which I don't know what the Minnesota market's doing right now. It's hit and miss. Here's Sullivan to Aurora. But if we do, let's sort this by highest rate. Let's look where all the long haul stuff's going. Of course, all the shopping cart loads pop up out of St. Charles. And then there's St. Peter's. I believe that's automotive. Yeah, there's 3 stops in Massachusetts. So $28.50. They're at $2.39 a mile. But let's look at our tolls. Only $22 in tolls. That's hard to believe, but it could be true. But then there's not many loads. Massachusetts anywhere there's 16. So you gotta be smart when you go into the Northeast. That's just all there is to it. So you can add any number you want there. I have the percentage in fuel and tolls in there. So let's like Pacific, Missouri to Enfield, Connecticut. Now it doesn't cover the Connecticut tax. Right? You got to put that in yourself. So let's say I wanted to put $100 in parking. So $100, right? That increased my cost per day, right? It'll actually give me my profit. So there's that. So I guarantee that the majority of you, if you actually did your numbers, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing right now. It's that simple. With both feet, good morning. All is well. SST, hope all is well with you, man. SST, what's up, man? So, anyways, that's it for today. Oh, yeah, let's look at reefer. Hold on. Let's look at reefer real quick. This is a great question, Gary. If your truck gets 8 miles per gallon, do you use that figure to determine or do you use 6 miles per gallon? I always did 6, and here's why. I go by my IFTA report. Okay, I don't go by what the dash is telling me, because if you idle, obviously your dash is going to tell you a lower MPG, right? And if let's say I'm on some dedicated run and it's all like heavy rolls of paper through Virginia, you're even though your truck can get 8, you're probably going to be closer to 6. Your IFTA report is your most accurate that you can think of, that I can think of. And then you can actually do the actual math, and like Trucking Office, and I know Trucking Pro, both of which I've used, will give you your average rate, mile per gallon. And so I did 6 as a baseline. I think that I usually averaged about 6.8, and then towards the end of the tire wear that I had on that truck, it was 7.2. That was with the 2014 Kenworth T680. So just because your truck, now if you're always averaging 8, then use 8. But I would still do a lower. I would still do 6, because think about it. If let's pick a load here. Let's do this California to Maryland for $2.58 a mile on the reefer side. Look at all the stops. That's why. Right? But let's look at this load. Okay? I've got my fuel at 6 miles per gallon. 493. Notice the average is up because of this lane, right? You're doing basically California, which has the highest price fuel, to the Northeast, which also has the highest price fuel. And so let's look at our fuel here. So let's say my estimated fuel cost at $23.85, okay? Let's say I get 7. Let's say this is a light load. Let's say I get 7. It says 38, but let's say I get 7 miles a gallon. Well, then, yeah, this number's off, but it's off in my favor. So you should always overestimate it. Overestimate your cost per fuel, so you have some cushion just in case something goes wrong, right? Or just in case it's actually cheaper. You're like, oh, wow, I made more money than I thought I would. And so that's why I put it at 6. Now, if I had a hooded truck, I would put it at 5. And Cheap Freight says 8.7 quarter 2 IFTA, but I use 6.5 when calculating fuel costs on a load. There you go. Because how many times do you have to accept a load for $50 or $100 less than what you really kind of wanted it for? And so it gives you that cushion, right? If I have to get a truck absolutely without fail to a certain spot, I'm not going to lose that load if it's my only option over $50. And so it's always better to overestimate, because also here's the other thing you have to consider, the deadhead miles. So if you're like delivering, okay, so when I was a company driver, we were doing these steady loads out of Springfield to Port St. Lucie there at the Tropicana. We were delivering plastic pallets. And the 3 times that I did this run, 2 of the times they deadheaded me 600 miles up to Conyers to pick up paper going back to Springfield. And so you have to account for that. And so I did the whole thing, last live feed talking about fueling for the load. Well, fueling for the load is stupid. Fueling based off of the price is better. Because, if I can get all my fuel in the cheapest state, I'll do it, right? And then maybe I do a couple of short loads. I don't even have to get fuel. So yeah, always overdo your estimating. Always round up or round down. If a load pays $2,963, don't sit there. Oh, I made $3,000 coming out. No, you made $2,900. Put that in your head. That way, when it comes out a little bit better, you're pleasantly surprised, right? But you should be doing your numbers to the point that that's not a surprise. You don't round up like that. And a lot of people do that. They brag, oh yeah, I got $3,000 to go out there. Well, it was actually $2,875, but $3,000, that sounds better when I talk to my friends, right? And that's how I do business, right? Look, it's a mental tactic, right? And we're all, it's beaten into us. You go to Walmart, how many times do you go, oh, this is only, it says $3.97 on the price, $3.97. You're like, oh man, this is only $3. No, it's $4 after tax. It's going to be more than $4. Round up or round down or don't round at all. When we're living on a tight budget, when we go to the grocery store, I got my phone calculator out and I'm adding as I go. And I'm always rounding up. $3.57, that's $4. $3.97, that's $4. Or I'll put $4.25 on it. And I'm usually within a couple of dollars when I'm buying groceries. The tax man got me by surprise when I sold my truck. So, that's a sad deal. So I might have to get a second job. Or a third job, really. Thanks for all your info that you put out, Steve. I use your knowledge on how to run my business better. Your info does help. I appreciate it. Well, Gary, I hope I can help. Look, I'm not some be-all, end-all. I've made mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes. And so a lot of my lessons is because I've already skinned my knee and burned my hand. That kind of stuff. And it's only by the grace of God and some good luck and a good supportive family that I was able to do what I did for as long as I did. And by being realistic with my numbers, that's why I never went and got my own authority. I talked about this on the OG channel. I had some concerns about getting my own authority, and those concerns would have come to fruition had I kept my authority at that time. On what new carriers are dealing with right now, with the insurance, with the fuel, and with this, go highway crap. And and look, the whole world is against you, and you gotta be on your A game. Learn from your lessons. As long as, look, you don't have to know everything going into this business, but as long as you're teachable, right? As long as you're willing to learn, as long as you hang out in the right crowds, and not be an a-hole, and let the people that are trying to help you, then you'll surround yourself with good people, and you do well. Lack of gratitude, lack of understanding, lack of being able, lack of being teachable, that it's usually that mindset that puts people under. So, Truckers Education Network is in the house. Everybody saying hi to Jeff. There's a lot of things I thought I could do with the truck. I never considered dining the household refrigerators off the truck, but it's worked for 5 days now. Oh, are you using your generator there? That was one of that's why I got a carrier, because it's basically a better generator than the tri-pack. And so if we had to, we could use it. It wasn't until I got rid of the truck, I was like, I better buy a generator. I don't have any friends. They got tired of me pushing SFI trucks on them. I'm always willing to learn. The day I stop learning, I'm probably dead. So, says Gary. All right, man. Well, there's your reefer market. And then let's do flatbed and van. Or not van, flatbed, step deck. Southeast, of course. And then northwest. So, pick your highest outbound from Washington to Georgia. Pick your highest outbound to Georgia, Washington. See if it meets your daily rate, and you're good to go. Right? Do it now before winter hits. Or you can just run in this 3-state area if you live up here, or run in this area if you live down here. I'm sure there's a lot of inbound loads going into these hurricane-stricken areas. So be careful. Yeah, look at Florida. 1,091 inbound, 377 outbound. So, but anyways, that's it. We'll see you Friday, hopefully. Yeah. So, anyways, have a good day. Strength for today, over tomorrow. Don't be stupid. And recon your loads. Do trip planning. And be safe. See ya.